Welcome back for Keeper of the Lost Cities Nightfall, chapters 52 and 53. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a chapter, and this is chapter 52. Sophie didn't ask Physic what was in this sugary pink sedative, knowing the answer would probably make her not want to take it. So she wasn't prepared for the interesting dreams. The second she crawled under her covers, she floated off to Rainbow Glitterland, complete with kittens and tiaras and cartwheeling puppies and candy islands surrounded by twirling dolphins in tutus. Everything was so happy and sparkly and bright it made her head spin and her stomach woozy. But maybe that was the point. To make her grateful to return to reality, even if it wasn't nearly so cute, and to be glad to wake up to find people in her room instead of dancing anthropomorphic animals. "What's going on?" she asked, pulling her covers around her chest as she sat up to face Adeline and Lady Cadence. "You woke me up early," Lady Cadence told her, frowning as she watched Sophie slip on her gloves. "So I figured it was only fair that I get to return the favor, especially since you insisted on sleeping until noon." "Noon?" Panic wedged in Sophie's throat when she glanced out her windows at the bright afternoon sunlight. "I thought the sedative was only supposed to last a few hours." "It did," Adeline promised, "but your body must have been so exhausted that once you were out, you were out. And we let you sleep because you needed it. And because it was time to let the grown-ups tackle some of these challenges," Lady Cadence added. "Oh, don't scowl at me like that. There's nothing wrong with admitting that certain things need a bit more wisdom and maturity to manage." "It had nothing to do with that," Adeline insisted. "We just wanted to give you a chance to recover after an incredibly draining day. And don't worry, Mr. Forkle is here to update you on everything that's been happening." Adeline was finishing the sentence when Sophie sprinted for the stairs, which was unfortunately why she didn't realize she was still in her ruffly nightgown, with bedhead and morning breath, until she got into the living room. Even more unfortunate was the fact that Mr. Forkle wasn't the only one waiting for her. The other 4 members of the collective were there, back in their bizarre disguises, and Livy was Physic again, this time wearing a silver mask decorated with black feathers. Grady was there too, and Alden and Della, and Fitz, Dex, Biana, Tam, and Lynn, and Sandor, Grizzle, Walter, Lovis, and Caddock. And an imposing figure in a jeweled circlet and cape, with features as sharp as the points of his ancient ears, which was probably the reason the Black Swan had chosen to hide their identities. "Good to see you, Miss Foster," Counselor Bronte told her as she fumbled through a curtsy while attempting to tuck as much of her messy hair behind her ears as she could. "I see you were eager to get this meeting started." Her face burned. Even though she'd been on better terms with Bronte for the last several months, her queasy stomach couldn't forget all the time he'd spent threatening to send her to exile. "Sorry," she mumbled, slipping into the robe Adeline had thankfully thought to grab before she and Lady Cadence joined them. "No need to apologize," Mr. Forkle told her. "I, for one, am relieved to see you've gotten some rest. I would have let you sleep through the entire day, but I feared you might not be too happy with me if I did." "I wouldn't have been," Sophie agreed. "Where's Alvar?" "Somewhere safe," Squall promised. The ice crusting her features made it impossible to recognize her as Dex's mom. "It's been a very busy night, and an even busier morning," Mr. Forkle added. "I have lots of answers for you, but before we get to them, I need you and your friends to promise to hold your questions until we've finished explaining. Otherwise, we'll never get through this." When they nodded, he asked the 6 of them to take a seat on the couch, which didn't feel like a good sign for where the conversation would be heading. "Don't worry," Biana whispered, taking a seat next to Sophie, followed by Lynn, Tam, and Fitz. Dex squeezed in on the opposite side, sitting as far away from Sophie as he possibly could. "We all only woke up a little while ago." That would have been a lot more comforting if the rest of her friends hadn't looked so well-dressed and showered. Biana had even braided her hair with jewels throughout the intricate weave. Sophie felt more uncomfortable when she noticed that Keith wasn't there. She told him to stay away, but it seemed wrong to have everyone else gathered without him. "Let's see. Where to start?" Mr. Forkle asked as he turned to pace the length of the bright room. After 3 back and forths, he settled on the subject of Alvar, explaining that the eldest Vacker had been moved to a cell that the gnomes and dwarves had constructed early that morning, far enough away from everything to ensure that Alvor would pose no threat, but still readily accessible for Lady Cadence and the ogres who had arrived from Ravagog that morning to begin working on the antidote for the Sapuridine. "Are you guys okay?" Sophie asked Alden and Della when she noticed the bruise-like shadows rimming their eyes, not caring that she was breaking Mr. Forkel's no-questions rule. "We have mixed emotions," Alden said, fussing with his slate-colored cape. "But we've known something like this was inevitable ever since we found out the truth about our son. In some ways, it's a relief knowing he's no longer out there helping the Neverseen with their horrible projects," Della added. "I'm just sorry we can't learn anything from him right now, especially about where to find your human family." "Which is still the priority," Grady assured her. "I know you're worrying about Neverseen using your parents as a distraction, but look at how many of us are here right now." He waved his arms around the crowded room. "And this is still only a fraction of the resources available. So we're more than capable of dividing our focus between projects, and we will find them." "But we don't have any leads," Sophie argued. "Actually, we do," Granite told her. His voice was as crackly as his rocky disguise, which gave him the look of a half-carved statue coming to life. "Like what?" Tam asked. Mr. Forkel smiled. "You kids are doing about as well with the no-questions rule as I expected." "But since you asked," Bronte jumped in, "I am one of those leads." His sharp eyes homed in on Dex, who scooted deeper into the couch cushions. "It's come to my attention that you possess Finton's cash, and, no need to look so terrified, I'm glad your group managed to steal it, though I do hope you're taking every precaution to protect it. Whatever you do, do not tell him that you carry it around with you," Sophie transmitted to Dex, "and don't mention that you have Kenrick's cash either." Dex gave her the briefest of nods, his eyes darting quickly away as he told Bronte, "No one's getting anywhere near the cash unless I want them to." "Excellent," Bronte said. "You and I will be working to access the secrets together to see if we can uncover anything about this prisoner he's working with. Finton and I have a long history, so if anyone can figure out the passwords protecting his secrets, it's me." "Does that mean he chose the passwords?" Sophie asked. Bronte shook his head. "They're generated by the cache itself. It's a security feature, both to keep the secrets protected and to provide a way for us to recover the information, should it become critical. Each password is something that should inherently be instinctive to us if we push our minds to trigger it. And I have several theories for what Finton's might be. So plan on coming to my office in Eternalia every day," he told Dex, "until we gain access." Dex definitely did not look excited when he said, "Yeah, sure." Sophie tried to offer him a sympathetic smile, but he didn't look her way. "We have also spoken to Lady Gisela," Granite said, making Sophie sit up straighter. "Sandor gave me Keef's imparter last night, as well as a piece of his soiled cape. And she was so shocked to hear about the state of Nightfall that she agreed to meet there, to see it herself." "You met with Lady Gisela?" Sophie clarified. Granite nodded. "Please tell me you arrested her," Bianna begged. "I said the same thing," Bronte grumbled. "We considered it," Mr. Forkel told them, "but Gisela is too cautious not to be prepared for that. And at the moment, she is far more used to us when she has her freedom to investigate certain things on her own. Apparently, the Neverseen stole something rather important of hers when they cleared out the facility. Something called the archetype." "Did she say what it was?" Fitz asked. "Only in the vaguest terms possible," Granite said. "Gisela is smart. She knows we have no alliances, though she kept claiming we were fools not to offer one. And she's clearly well-trained at hiding secrets from telepaths. I tried invading her mind while we were together, and I was only able to hear what her most bland observations were." "Sophie and I could have gotten past whatever blocking she was using," Fitz argued. "You should have brought us with you." "I wish we could have," Granite told him, "but Gisela demanded that the meeting be strictly between her and me. As I said, she's smart. She didn't even let me see her face." Sophie wondered if that had anything to do with her scars from the Shamniv. Not that it mattered. "Did she say anything about what Nightfall was supposed to be?" "She said it's a testing facility, designed to measure worthiness. but she refused to say who she'd been planning to test, or what happened to those worthy or unworthy, or how those determinations were made. Even though I suggested that the Black Swan might be open to a bargain, the only other information she gave me was to confirm that the third level on Nightfall was used for their Saporidine experiment, and she only confessed to that when I revealed we had Alvar in our custody. Why would you tell her that? Fitz snapped. Because I had to let her think she'd forced me into revealing a crucial secret. Also because I wanted to see her reaction. She was genuinely shocked. In fact, it's why she was willing to explain a few details about the Saporidine. She didn't give any clues to the drug's ultimate purpose, of course, or how much of the scheme was Finton's plan instead of hers, but she did reveal that each of the 20 fire sites had different variables to alter the protein's effect and potency, and she thinks Alvar was exposed to the strongest variation. Of course, Sophie mumbled, which is why Mr. Desney and I should get started on the cache, Bronte noted. Wait, Sophie said, as he removed a pathfinder from his cape. What about Prentice? Mr. Forkel shifted his weight. Before I answer that, I need to remind each of you of your promise to hold questions until the end. Can you actually try sticking to it for the next part? He waited for all of them to agree before he nodded to Physic. She stepped forward, adjusting the tilt of her mask as she told them. I tested Prentice this morning, and I didn't find any marks like what's on Alvar's heel. Sophie was trying to decide if she was relieved when Physic added, but there was a small glowing dot in the center of his palm. So, he was definitely exposed to Saporidine. Chapter 53. How could you do that? Sophie shouted at Bronte. Do you have any idea how close we came to losing Prentice for good? She regretted the words when Alden's face went from pale to gray. Della must have noticed the change as well, because she wrapped her arms around her husband, holding him close and whispering in his ear. I didn't do anything to Prentice, Bronte said calmly. And for the record, neither did Elena, or Emery, or Tarek, though I'd think his injury in Luminaria would be proof enough that he's not involved with the Neverseen, without my needing to say so. He's not lying, Mr. Forkel added, before Sophie could make that very accusation. I spent the majority of the morning at Nationalia personally questioning all 12 counselors, and I kept my mind open to their thoughts to ensure their honesty, and I made him bring me to Prentice to see his mark myself, Bronte told her. Even now, I still find it hard to believe that such an insignificant glowing speck on his palm could harm him so thoroughly. It looked like he was exposed to the same amount I was, Lady Caden said quietly. Believe me, it's more than enough, especially without a broken mind, to amplify the reaction. Why do you think I voted to allow more ogres into the Lost Cities? Bronte told her. I'm counting on you and your team to find a remedy to this substance before the Neverseen unleash whatever they're planning. I still wonder if the shadow vapor manipulation could draw Alvar from his trance, Physic jumped in. If you're willing, Tam, I'd love to test a few theories out. Whatever you need, Tam promised. How did Wiley take the news? Lynn asked. Did anyone explain what Saporidine is? I did, Lady Cadence told her. I answered all of his questions. And I made it clear that the council had nothing to do with his father's exposure, Bronte added. Sophie couldn't make herself believe him. You're sure the counselors weren't involved? Sophie transmitted to Mr. Forkel. Yes, Miss Foster, he transmitted back. I am. I bent the rules of telepathy a bit during my interrogations and combed through all their minds much more carefully than they realized, and I was able to dredge up each of their memories of that day. None of them gave me any reason to doubt their integrity. So who drugged Prentice then? Sophie asked out loud. Bronte turned to stare at the pastures, watching the Argentavis fly loop around his aviary. Most likely it was one of the dwarves working in exile. We've known for a while now that some of their species have joined forces with the Neverseen, and Tarek said he had several dwarves helping him retrieve Prentice from his cell and administering the sedatives. Any of them would have had ample opportunity to apply the Saporidine to Prentice's palm without anyone knowing. Counselor Emery already went through the guard records, Mr. Forkel added. 2 different dwarves transferred into exile not long before Prentice's scheduled departure, and have since resigned. We gave their names to King Enki, and he has confirmed that they're missing from the dwarven world. Orly will be heading to exile today to interview the current guards to see if any of them noticed anything that day, or could be traitors as well. I can't imagine that Everseed would keep traitors there full-time, Bronte insisted. It seems much more likely that they were brought in specifically for Prentice. But why? Tam asked. Why go to such trouble to drug someone who was already had a broken mind? Probably because they knew we were getting ready to heal him, Physic told him, and they didn't want us to find out what made him call Swansong. I thought he called Swansong because he knew he was about to be arrested, Dex reminded them. Alden flinched and Della pulled him closer. We once thought the same, Mr. Forkel admitted, but as I'm sure you recall, Prentice knew about the Lodestar symbol, and he dredged up the final pieces of it when Miss Foster transmitted the word Swansong. Combine that with the tremendous effort that Neverseen took to keep him shattered, it seems fairly telling. Okay, but here's what I don't understand, Tam said. It's actually been bugging me since Prentice showed us the symbol, but I didn't say anything because I figured I was new to the group, so I'd probably missed something. But if Prentice understood that the symbol was super important, which it seems like he did because of the Swansong connection, why didn't he tell anyone about it before his mind was broken? Even if he was trying to protect the Black Swan's secrets, he knew the Lodestar symbol had nothing to do with you guys. So why didn't he say, there's this big thing you need to look into, since I won't be able to? Wouldn't you have investigated the symbol if he'd shown it to you? He asked Alden. Of course. Alden's voice sounded hoarse as he turned to Physic. But I wouldn't have been able to spare Prentice any of his pain. In fact, it would have only served as further proof that the memory break was necessary. Okay, Tam said, but Prentice knew the break was inevitable. Wouldn't he at least pass along anything important while he still could, to make sure the secret didn't get buried after his mind was broken? That does sound like Prentice, Granite murmured. And he didn't say anything to Quinlan during their private meetings, did he? Alden asked Physic. She shrugged. I'm sure if he did, Quinlan would have investigated. So, you guys think it's weird too then, Tam confirmed. Sophie definitely did, now that he'd mentioned it. And no one had a good explanation. Well, Physic said, clearing her throat, this makes our good news even more significant. Soon enough, we'll be able to ask Prentice these questions ourselves. Sophie was on her feet without thinking. Does that mean... Yes, Mr. Forkel said, when she couldn't finish the sentence, in case she was getting her hopes up for nothing. Now that we finally understand why Prentice took such a drastic downturn, and know we can prevent it from happening again, we're ready to try having you heal him. That concludes chapter 53, and we'll see you tomorrow for 54. Bye!